Hey there, this is Pete Townsend from Norio Ventures, and welcome to Money Never Sleeps, a podcast that looks inside the head of entrepreneurs and at what makes them do what they do. This episode of Money Never Sleeps is kindly sponsored by Ireland's fintech and financial services recruitment specialists, Top Tier Recruitment. If you or a colleague need help attracting and retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, it is highly advisable that you build a relationship with the team at Top Tier Recruitment. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com and tell them we sent you. This week, we talked to Quinn from VideoRankMe, an Ireland-based early-stage tech company doing some amazing things with online video and search engine optimization, or SEO. Ash has a really interesting background with her soul-searching pivot away from her law degree and a re-entry into the professional world, driving digital businesses forward. Ash's repositioning away from a completely different line of work was conveniently completed a couple of years ago before the world caught fire in 2020, which is a parallel with my own story that we dig into a bit in this week's episode of Money Never Sleeps.
Money never sleeps, pal.
Here we go again. Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. We're recording today from the home studio, and we're on with Quinn, Director of Sales and Marketing at VideoRankMe, which is the first Google-approved video ranking technology for immediate page one results on Google and YouTube. She also operates in a similar role with Moshapa, a turnkey e-commerce platform, and recently spun up Sweat25, connecting individuals with certified fitness professionals running live online classes. Ash and I were introduced by Elaine from Starling Bank recently, and we had a chat and we clicked, so here we go. Welcome to the show, Ash.
Thank you, Pete. How are you?
Awesome. Great to have you here. You're quite busy, and it feels like everything you're involved in is digital first or even digital only, which is obviously a smart place to be right now. And I kind of see the tagline serial entrepreneur in your very near future, if it's not already there.
Oh God, I don't know about that, but certainly giving it a go, and it certainly feels like digital is a good place to be. Obviously, they're very tough times at the moment for a lot of people, so I suppose I'm quite lucky in that regard that I've kind of made the shift to digital quite early on in my career.
Absolutely, and you're based in Kildare here in Ireland, yeah?
Yep. Sunny Straffan right now.
Been out that way a couple of times, lovely part of the world, and it's great to be able to actually be running businesses from a place that we all just like to live and do our thing, right?
That's it. And I suppose I'm probably quite fortunate in that I work from home a lot anyway. So, I'm used to my setup of getting up in the morning and going to my laptop in my little office. So yeah, it hasn't been such a big adjustment for me as I can imagine a lot of other people. So yeah, certainly being able to work from somewhere you like is a big bonus right now.
Absolutely. So why don't we get into it? Why don't you tell us your backstory? How did you get to this point in your life and what you're working on right now?
So I went to UCD and I studied law because I was absolutely passionate about becoming a solicitor. That was definitely going to be my route. And then I suppose I changed my mind. I worked really hard. I got a job. I had a training contract. And then I went away from the summer just after I finished college. That was 2017. I went traveling with my boyfriend and he was starting to get his exam materials together for the next stage of becoming a solicitor. And I just had no interest. So it coincided quite nicely with my dad starting up a company called Moshapa. Although it wasn't called Moshapa at the time, it was something else. But I just went into the office to give him a hand and to clear my head more so than anything else. Did some office work, did some filing, whatever could be helpful at that time. So then I kind of got into it a bit and I realized that it was to do with online shopping and it was quite exciting. And they were talking to people in London and people in New York. And so, there were trips being planned to these places. And suddenly my career going into the same building every day, into a law firm every day, didn't look so glamorous or sexy. So I kind of made the decision to run the two alongside each other, that, I just kind of try and keep, hedge my bets and see what way it was going to go. But then I suppose it came to the Christmas time and the law firm said, look, you got to make one, you're either with us or you're not. So I said, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith here and trust in the startup. And so that was 3 years ago nearly. So yeah, it's been a funny roller coaster since then. So that company evolved as time went on and as we figured out what we had. And so that's how Moshapa came about. So Moshapa means my shop. We create online shops for people. We've access to thousands of products and top brands. So basically we give people inventory access and they can sell these brands on their own online store and receive commission for every sale. So So that company. And I suppose how I've ended up in VideoRankMe is the same CTO guy called Mike English. So he's developed all of our technology with his teams. And so VideoRankMe was initially built to solve a problem for our shopkeepers. Because if our people who had their own online store were selling the latest stock of Nike, or they were selling Apple products or Gucci or Tiffany or whatever they might be selling, that we've given access to, how can they compete against them online? And that was the big question we had. Okay, you can sell to your friends and family, but how can we get it out beyond that? And so that's where VideoRankMe came about. So Mike worked very hard on it. We thought video was the right route to go, given the way video has just taken off over the last number of years. But particularly now, it's certainly the future of search. And so that's kind of where it all came about. So we got our Google contract for VideoRankMe last July, August time. And I suppose here we are now, just trying to, weave it into the market and help people, I suppose, stay visible in these times, but also give them a way to possibly show off in a way that they haven't before.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting. Kind of that background of, I get that, where you study something for a long time and then you just kind of feel like, Jesus, this just isn't for me. I went through a somewhat similar experience way back when, but I won't get into that. But just, how did that feel, leaving that law degree behind effectively? Do you feel like you left it behind, or is it like that has just become part of your blood?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think certainly it depends on how the day is going, I guess. If things are going brilliant, I'm speaking at an event, or I've had a really good positive meeting and someone loves their product and they want to get involved. That's obviously, I'm like, well, that was definitely the right decision. When things are slow and when things are quiet and maybe investors aren't happy, or, like the usual pains of a startup, I think it's those times to remind myself to stay positive and, that I made the right decision. That's probably the challenge. But I guess because my boyfriend has gone on the same track that I would have gone on, I've been able to see his milestones and I suppose see where I'm at compared to him, because that's where I would have been. So, he did his FE1 exams, he's gone on, he's done his PPC1 exams, he's now in his first seat. So that's exactly where I would have been had I gone down that route. So I guess having that contrast at all times and knowing that that's where I could have been, I suppose, as I said, it just depends on the day. But by and large, I'm very happy with the choice I made.
That's a really, really cool point, because I was thinking about my education, but if I think about my professional career, I left behind a big chunk of expertise about 5 years ago when I stepped out into the entrepreneurial world and advising startups and helping them raise funds and get their products to market and find customers. And leaving that behind, what I say to folks sometimes is, listen, 4 out of 5 days a week, I've got 20 years of completely useless information in my head. One day a week, I may use that and help somebody from a subject matter expertise perspective with, I'm just going to refer to it as the hedge funds industry. And every now and again, I think about some of my former colleagues or my friends that have moved on and have advanced in that industry and are doing really well. And I stop and think, just like you said, on those tough days where it's like, oh, I could have done that. I could have had a bit shorter day. But when I think about it like that, when I really get into it, I'm like, you know what? I'm happier doing what I'm doing right now.
That's it. You got to just stay true to yourself, I think. In your gut that you've made the right call.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really like that. So just on VideoRankMe, I see this link between Moshapa and VideoRankMe, as you said, and I've seen other startups do this where they build their first product, and then as part of supporting that product, they end up with an additional product that's pretty good, right? So putting Moshapa and VideoRankMe on that same par, I know that you've said offline, Ash, that Moshop is doing well, looking at scaling into the US. The spawning almost of VideoRankMe out of that is really interesting. How is that going? Right? I know you shared about the Google deal last year, but where do you see this all going with VideoRankMe?
Yeah, VideoRankMe is really exciting, and I suppose it's because it's so applicable to such a wide market. Moshop is great, but it's the e-commerce market, and it is, people looking to earn a secondary income, whereas VideoRankMe helps any business who needs a digital online presence. So, we see it aligning very well with people's SEO initiatives. We were going great until this big pandemic came along. That really has made us kind of sit back and really look at ourselves and adapt, see how we can be of help to businesses during these times and provide something that people really need right now, which is to stay visible. So that's something that, we've noticed. Our route to market initially was with agencies, digital agencies who would have access then to maybe 100, 200, 300, 400 clients. And we would be a really nice tool for those agencies to use. Whereas what we're seeing now is a lot of businesses are actually insourcing and they're cutting their agency budgets. So whilst agencies are still, looking for something additional to give their clients, and we fit quite nicely with that, we're actually finding that we're now kind of targeting a different cohort, which is the businesses themselves who are saying, okay, we don't have our PPC expertise or we don't have SEO expertise right now, but we need to do something. And I suppose that's where we've come in.
All right. How do you sell it? And does that require kind of those relationships at the enterprise sales level? Is it right to a founder of a digital only business or the CTO of a digital only business? How do you actually build those relationships to sell it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I suppose what I would have said to you maybe 2 months ago was, we're building a SaaS platform and we're going to get it out to the masses. Now we've kind of had to rethink that a little bit, just to kind of, not that it's not in the final plans or part of our growth strategy, but right now, yeah, we're going to people that we know or word of mouth or, small campaigns just to get in front of the right people. But yeah, certainly our angel investor has been a huge help to us, a guy called Dan Kiley from Boxbro. So he would have a very good network of people. And also, so my dad's the executive chairman. He would know a number of businesses as well. So yeah, really, it's been easing ourselves into the market at this moment in time.
Okay, I get you. And I see this with a number of other startups that are over the last month have really just, I think the word pivot is such a cliche now and it's overused, but they're adjusting. And they're saying, what can I do right now to actually get revenue in to move this to a cash flow positive business? That is one of the hardest things to do as a startup and to get into cash flow positive territory. This will be going on for another 3 to 4 months. What were some of the lessons that you've learned over the past 6 weeks? When we first spoke, probably about 6 weeks ago, you were in the midst of doing a rebranding. How is that going? Has the world on fire moment that we're going through right now changed that approach? How are you thinking about branding now, really in the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, so we did get our rebranding done. So, we have a new website, we have a new logo, new explainer video, which looks great. So I think because I haven't been doing as much traveling and the team hasn't been traveling, we've actually been able to get together and get stuff done that we otherwise just wouldn't have had time to do, or it would have taken us a lot longer. So I suppose the rebranding exercise has still taken place, but you're right. Now, instead of it just being for anybody, we're really having to look at our customer segmentation and I suppose see, what do we have that fits into the financial industry? What do we have that fits in for YouTubers or musicians? Or, we're really trying to fine tune for the right audience. But in terms of personally speaking, for the lessons that I've learned, I've really got a much better balance in my life. I'm doing more exercise than I've ever done, purely because, I'm doing it from my house, or I'm going out for a walk, or I'm getting fresh air, not commuting and still being able to have meetings through video conferencing. I think it's been a real shift for me. I've really relished being able to speak to people from all over the world and not actually have to, get on a plane or drive for 2 hours in early morning traffic to get into town. That I hope that's something that sticks, that, we don't go back to that as readily.
Absolutely. Yeah. Vanessa Tierney from Abodu, we did a replay of her episode, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And her tagline is "Life is a journey, not a commute." And I totally feel that as well. Just in the last 6 weeks, I think it was the 13th of March that my wife told me that the kids were going to be out of school for what was 3 weeks at that time. And I remember on that day, I was thinking, well, that's probably the end of meetings in town if the kids aren't going to be in school. And from that point, it was just, I was only going to town probably 2 or 3 days a week. And just dropping that, even though it's really 35 to 40 minutes door to door, if you're going at a good traffic point, for me, from where I live, it's still a different structure to your day. And you have space between meetings that you fill with this, that, and the other thing, and walking from here to there. I'm just finding myself getting a lot more done, finding myself being a lot more tired and sleeping a lot better just because I'm doing a lot more, going out on bike rides with the kids for a half hour here and there, to break things up. But you're right. It's a different way to get through your day, right? And to get things done, which I'm enjoying, but I do kind of miss that. Even though you can get that face-to-face with Zoom or with any of the other apps, sometimes people don't turn on the camera. It's harder to connect with people when it's just voice rather than seeing the whites of their eyes. And even if they do have the camera on, it's kind of like it's not 3D. I don't know, right? Do we all need 3D headsets to be able to take Zoom to the next level?
I think you've just come up with a new business idea.
Yeah. I heard that. What is it? Oculus, I think they're the company owned by Facebook. They're hitting serious financial trouble right now. Because you got to go into the shop, you got to put the hardware on, you got to have that experience, and people just can't do that right now. But maybe we can cut a deal with them, Ash, and get them at a cut right price, and find a way to merge that into one of your businesses, right?
Yeah, or Zoom. We could just also set up a good partnership there. We could just be the middleman.
Absolutely. I've got a few friends who just love to spin up deals. That's all they do. So let's see if we can drum that up. Yeah. When was just kind of curious about kind of your experience. You talked a little bit about this, but during the course of the past couple of years that you've been doing this, since you've changed track from your career focus and your professional focus, when was the moment that you realized that this was worth doing?
Ooh, honestly, every time I do a demo of VideoRankMe and people go, wow, because it ranks immediately and they've never seen something happen so quickly. They see their brand on the top page. That for me, it's pretty cliche, but that every time it gives me like a yes, like a fire in my belly moment where I know that I'm doing the right thing, because it is doing good for people. People want to see themselves there. So that, I don't know if there's a defining moment outside of that, because that happens. Thankfully, it happens most days of the week. Yeah, I would say it's every time that I go into a meeting and I do a demo and people react that way. That's what kind of drives you on when you know that you're doing something for the right reasons.
Absolutely. No, I get that. Having that daily affirmation can really help and just keep pushing you along in the right direction. What do you think are some of the personality traits of yours that have been the most helpful to you as you've gone through this over the past couple of years?
I think the biggest one is to have a work ethic. Certainly for me, being able to drive and just get the job done. Get your hands dirty, do the jobs that you don't want to do and nobody else wants to do either. It's that willingness, I suppose, to just get, to get down and dirty and to get the job done. Certainly when I came into the business, I wouldn't have had any expertise. I wouldn't have, known, I didn't know what SEO stood for example.
Yeah.
So, I've come quite a long way. And I suppose listening has probably been a key point of that, being very grateful to have such great business people around me. So, we've got Ricky Hill, who would have worked in Voxpro. He worked in the UK for a good while. So he's now my CEO, and he's just been being able to lean on him, I suppose, and listen to what he has to say and watch how he does things. And I suppose not copy him, but copy him, seeing how he interacts with people, seeing, the terminology he uses. So that, and also my dad, I'd look at him as well. And so the people around me is being able to, I suppose, take from them what's going to benefit me, looking at how they handle situations, how they speak to people. I think it's all to do with people, really, in business, forging relationships, but doing it in an authentic way. So that's certainly having a work ethic to do those jobs that nobody else wanted to do. Listening intently to make sure that I'm like a sponge, soaking up whatever I can from these people, and then resilience. there's good days, there's bad days. Startups, I think they're like a roller coaster, and I think I'm almost addicted to the emotions of that roller coaster now.
Yeah.
But when it's quiet and, I'm twiddling my thumbs, there isn't much to do. It's to know that, I am going to be very busy again, and I'm going to, so the work ethic side, that's ticked off. That's great. If you're working a 15-hour day, no problem. It's when you've got a 2-hour day, that's when I start to, I suppose, you hear those noises or the voices in your head, those doubts creeping in. So it's that resilience at that point to really, just push through and drive it. And, I think as we're a small team, sometimes I might be feeling a little bit down and somebody else will be, they'll pick me up and vice versa. So I think having that teamwork, to have teamwork and to believe in teamwork and to use it as well has certainly been useful traits for us.
Yeah, I got a quick follow up on that on teamwork. But first, one thing you said there about the startup being a roller coaster. Ben Horowitz, who I mentioned before, it was either him or his partner Mark Andreessen who said something to the effect of, as a startup founder, there are two emotions: euphoria and terror, and and lack of sleep enhances both emotions, right? So, and then, Ben Horowitz also said it. As a founder, he always slept like a baby. Every few hours he woke up crying, So yeah, it's not an easy professional life, but it can be quite thrilling. And you just got to grab hold of those moments and keep them inside to motivate you and keep them outside to share them with a team. On that, you mentioned teamwork, right? How are you guys managing to stay connected virtually? How are you guys doing it?
Well, my boss lives in the room beside me. So
okay.
Yeah, my dad and I live at home, so dad and I can speak all the time. But there's difficulty then to switch off in the evening, when we're having our dinner with the rest of the family, to not talk about work. But that's a whole other issue. But then with the other team, I suppose we have, with people on the ground in New York, we've got guys, our tech team is mostly based in India and Romania. So then we've our CTO is Tipperary, our CEO is Cork, our Sonia Flynn, who's our senior consultant, she's a director, she's based out in Sydney. So we're kind of used to this digital interaction where we don't get to actually meet up too often. So I think we almost have to over communicate, but because we've been doing this for a few years now, we're used to that. We're used to over communicating things. If we have a conversation on Zoom, we do a follow-up email that, outlines all the points that we've discussed. And so then everybody has a record. If somebody doesn't make the Zoom call, it gets shared with everybody else. Basic things that probably stop a breakdown or stop things slipping through the cracks.
Yeah. I'm with you. And you're right about people being used to having dispersed teams, right? I was speaking with a venture capital firm about this, and their founding partner, he's based in Tel Aviv. His second partner is based in Madrid, and they've got a few other people and venture partners that are spread around Europe. And one of the questions that came from an investor was, how do you guys feel about the fact that you're not all working together in the same office? And his response was, well, this is just normal. And we have the processes and governance and work ethic, like you said, in place to be able to support this. And this is just how we do things. That question came, I think it was the end of January when that meeting was on, maybe beginning of February. Now that question is no longer relevant, right? It's just not. I think we're going to move to, I don't think we're ever going to go back. I don't think we're going to continue in this type of environment where there's no physical interaction whatsoever. But I think the balance has shifted. And whether that's in 6 months or 3 months or a year, who knows, right? But I don't think there's any going back.
No, and also, allowing employees to work from home a little bit more. I think there may be some more flexibility in the air around that as well.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, but he works for a bank in Dublin. And I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Pete, I don't think we're ever going to need to go into an office ever again. And this was someone who works in financial services and whose teams are used to passing packets of paper around from one desk to the next for people to actually review and approve things. And that's just having that statement come from him. That was just really eye-opening. So yeah, I think there's, he said his only obstacle was having to go down the street to work from his sister's house because the kids were at home running around like maniacs, right? Just to get some work done. It different for everybody, but you're right. And that was one of the things that we talked about with Vanessa Tierney from Abodu, like I mentioned 2 years ago when we first aired that episode, was whether it's work from home or what she calls smart working, which is a nice mix of, well, hey, we're going to have the right balance of being at home, being perhaps in a co-working center, being perhaps in the office one day a week, depending upon the job, depending upon the employee and their personal situation, right? And moving towards that, I can definitely feel this shift happening.
Yeah, I think it has to happen now, doesn't it? Even just the last few weeks, having a balance in your life where we spoke about this, but, being able to go off and, almost work to your own schedule. If you've got kids who are banging down your doors and so you're not able to work between 10 to 12, it doesn't matter. You'll just... you can work a little later, you can work a bit earlier. Like, it really doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Provided you get the job done and everybody knows what they're working towards. I think it's a really, it's obviously a really challenging time and some people are having a really awful time at the moment. But, if this is one of the things that we can salvage from it and this is a positive, why not?
I know. And that's a good point. We just have to respect that there are people out there who obviously don't enjoy the same privileges that we all do and the benefits that we all do. So yeah, just mindful of that as well. And that's a good grounding point as well to say, listen, there's people out there in the world right now that are going through an extremely difficult time. So respect to that. So just to wrap up, Ash, been a really interesting conversation, but one more question. Tell us one thing that people wouldn't expect to know about you.
Oh, I am a Gaeilgeoir.
A Gaeilgeoir?
Yeah.
Elaborate in another language.
In English. So I grew up in England till I was 9, 10. Then when my dad finished playing football, we moved back to Ireland, and it was during the time of the Celtic Tiger, and my parents couldn't get me into any other school, so they landed me in this place that were speaking double Dutch for all I knew, a brilliant school called Gael Colossus de Kildare. And yeah, so I spent the next few years doing my education through Irish, and I suppose it's stuck with me ever since. I've I've found a love for it, then a graw for it, as we say. So yeah, that's
awesome.
Something you know about me.
Yeah, no, that's something we have in common, or at least you have in common with my family. Because I don't speak Irish very well at all. I can say Banya. Ritme Awalia or Nos Naguiha, I know that, which for our listeners is, I think, I ran home as fast as the wind. My wife taught me that, but my 3 kids are all in a Gael school. So my 3 kids are all speaking Irish quite well, and they put me to shame. They can read road signs in Irish that I have to ask them what they say.
I'm delighted to hear that. It's I think it's brilliant the way the Gael school are still going strong. They're probably stronger than ever now. So they're really happy to hear that. Yeah,
awesome. All right, great. Well, thank you, Ash. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Keep doing what you're doing. It's working, and you'll get there.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Awesome.
Money never sleeps, pal.
That does it for this week, folks, and thanks to Ash for opening up her mind to help us figure out why she does what she does. Links and show notes for this episode are on moneyneversleeps.ie, so check us out online. Remember, if you or a colleague need help attracting or retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, it is highly advisable that you build a relationship with a team at Top Tier Recruitment as they really know their stuff. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com. Also, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for editing this podcast. As for me, I increase the odds of startup success. Get in touch through the contact page on NorioVentures.com. You can check out what Owen Fitzgerald is up to these days on Twitter at OwenFitzgerald9. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!
Money never sleeps, pal.